In the beginning, when you're learning programming, regardless of any language, code blocks are in all of the languages. Some are defined in different ways. Some use curly braces, some don't use curly braces. In Swift programming language, they do use curly braces. So for all of my examples here, we will be using curly braces. So in other programming languages, the code blocks are the same. They just don't use the curly braces. They just use tabs instead. This is a command line application, and we're currently in the main.swift, so we can write top level code here. If you don't know what top level code is, I've got another video explaining that, but I just want to make you aware that traditionally you can't write these types of statements in a normal file, but because we're using a main.swift here in a command line application, we can write top level code. So let's just write age is equal to 45, right? And this is just a normal variable declaration. And if we say age is more than 45, right, then we're going to do this. I'm going to say if age is less than 45, then we're going to do this, right? What we've got here, if we just run this code, nothing exciting happens. But what we have with inside of these curly braces is nothing more than a code block, and there's nothing more than a code block here. So it's really super simple. There's nothing really to think, oh, this is really difficult. Now, if we wanted to then make a function, a lambda function, and say print age, and we can then basically open up another code block, and then we're going to say in here person age, and we'll make that an integer, and then this is then going to print the person's age. You are, and then we just do the backslash in here and say person age, and then say old, right? And we can compile this just to check everything's perfectly fine, and we get 0 problems. Now Xcode will normally tell you whether there's a problem, and because we're running top level code here, we can execute this by then just saying age and run this, and you can see here you are 45 years old. All right, so this is nothing more than a code block here in between, and this could be for switch statements, for in loop. It's also for like while loops as well. A switch statement is then if we then said age here, and then we did then our case 45, and then we did a case 44, and then we did like a default case here. This would then be then say don't know, and then we say here this is then let's just be stupid here and then say 44, and then print age here is then 45, and you can see here that this is basically a code block, and inside the switch statement we've got then different parts of it, but between the curly braces and the curly braces this is a code block, and this is all it is, and this keeps going on to function declaration. If we come here and say say hello, this is another code block. So really you can start seeing that this pattern is here. You know, this is a closure block, and then a do while loop block, or a guard statement is also one, and a protocol extension is equal to 1. So we could then just say like protocol is then superhuman, to say it's a superhuman, and then this is the superhuman protocol code block 2. So you can really see that it is not that difficult to understand what a code block is. So when someone says a code block, it's basically all of the code that's within inside of these curly braces, okay? And there can be then, like in else if age is more than 45, you can see that there can be multiple code blocks in the same statement here. This is the first code block. The code block is what code is contained inside of the curly braces. So this is then another code block. So really it's super easy, all right? Any code that's within inside of the code, the curly braces, is the code block itself. That's the code that's going to be executed. And a good understanding for future videos and future lessons is that anything that is born inside of this one code block, right, lives and dies inside of this code block. So it's like a kind of prison, all right? Anything from outside of this can come inside of the code block, all right? But anything born inside of this one code block cannot exit out of it, right? But the code, any code inside of the code block can manipulate anything from the outside of it. So if you want to have like a private, like sandbox, let's call it, inside, you simply just make a code block, and then you can make any variable inside of here, and this is then private, specific to this one code block. So when you want to know that you have no side effects in your code, right, in a specific piece of code, and you want to know that you're not going to affect any other code, put it in a code block. This is what I'm trying to say. And this comes with experience. In the beginning, it sounds super easy that this is a code block, but this is now coming from a very experienced programmer who's tell you that when you don't want to manipulate other variables or other information, you want to 100% know that you've got no side effects from your code, put it in the code block. And that is basically it. Or put it in a function and then do the work there and then return all the results and so on. So this is basically understanding how fundamentally important code blocks are. All right. With that said, I hope you've got something out of this one video. We probably could go even deeper into this, but we'll talk about code blocks in future videos when we write other code. All right, showing you other examples. But that's basically it in a very, very abstract, simple way of saying it. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.